everyone. We are live. This time I didn't say I am live. I said we are live. Because I'm starting to be used to this. Welcome to my house. Welcome to A Nose, the first and only channel dedicated entirely to the long forgotten, to the not yet known, to the obscure beauties in perfumery. Today we're going to do something opposite to last week's presentation, and we're going to talk about something new or relatively new. We're going to talk about a niche versus a designer, and after all of that heavy civet and all of that dirty talk, we're going to go the other way, and we're going to talk about something elegant and not well balanced, albeit very well composed, in my opinion. Ashfaq, good morning, everyone. And Dana Maximilian, Alex, Reluca, Cornelia, and Maria. Welcome. So last week we were talking about Teatro alla Scala, which is one of my most favorite civets out there. A very beautifully and very finely balanced Osma is with us. Olfactive memory. Hi, Kyle. This week we're going to talk about a new niche. Although it hasn't been launched last year or this year, it does have a few years behind it. It was started in 2014. The last fragrance that I know of was launched in 2016, so they're not incredibly recent, which kind of makes it comforting for me, and I'll tell you why. I have visitors in the trees in front of my windows, so if you I'm coming, if you hear weird cawing noises, that's where they're from. Animals come to me like I'm some sort of weird twisted Cinderella. So let's see. Pulp, hi from London. I am slightly better. I've been sick this week. Absolutely. Taffy from Chicago. Gabriela from far away. I'm a bird whisperer. Not really. I'm a bird shouter. Hi, Lily. And the Scandinavians are with us. And Bangladesh, because I forgot to mention it. Yash. All right. Yash, which you probably don't know, is a Romanian city named by the Persians a long time ago. It's a Persian name. Anyway, that's your bit of trivia for today. I was saying that I am slightly comforted by the notion that something was not launched in 2019 or 2018. Some of you know that I was there in Milan at Essence this year, and if you're Romanian, you probably heard me say that I was slightly disappointed, not by the offerings, but by the fact that I was able to pick up on trends. Now, my brain, and this is where I make my heavy money on, right? This is what I do for a living. My brain is wired in such a way that it allows me to pick up on trends, patterns, and so on and so forth. I'm no genius, but if I stare at a wall of numbers or a wall of anything that can enter my brain through my eyes, I am pretty quick at finding things that belong together. So at Essence, I don't even know how to read it, I actually was able to pick up on a few threads. If you want, I'll share them with you. I know there are a few perfumers amongst you who are here and might benefit from it or might want to stay away from it. But the trends that I noticed, and this is a huge parentheses, the trends that I noticed at Essence were, and if you hear it somewhere else after this date, they heard it here first. They're copying it. I'm only saying this because at Essence, I kept bumping into all these big guys, big reviewers, people with a lot of followers. By the way, we're at 555 members on A Nose on YouTube today. It's a very big number compared to what I expected. I love you all. Thank you for coming. Thank you for spreading the word. But I would bump into somebody who I've been following for a while. They have 10,000, 20,000, whatever, million followers. And my first question out of my mouth, and I think I might have mentioned this before, was, what did you find? What's good? Because there's 300 exhibitors there. You don't have time, physical time, awake time to go and visit every single booth, hear every single story, and analyze every single smell. Plus, the place reeked with aroma chemicals. It smelled like Ambroxan so much that you couldn't feel anything else. So it's like, I needed a little bit of direction. None of them, motherfuckers, I'm sorry, shared anything with me. None. No, I'm lying. Sebastian did. Peter from Fragrance View did. Anna Stoyan did. I'm lying. Lucas did. The Plum Girl did. Everybody else kind of like, oh no, I'm not impressed. No, I didn't find anything. And then sure enough, they show up with like a bottle of whatever they didn't like. And they say, this is the best finding, this is the whatever. So I'm sharing my thoughts here now. I've already talked to my Romanian community about it. Because I'm live very often with them. This is a very long parenthesis. I'm sorry, but I'm going to tell you what I picked up on. And yeah, I picked up on the following trends. One is weird, not weird, but not mainstream citrus, right? We've done lemon and bergamot and this and that. I've noticed a move towards Quinoto, for example, or odd bergamot orange, which is not the same as bergamot or orange. So finding like weird, preferably ancient citrus, even though everything came from only 3 pieces of agrums. Pomelo is one of them, for example. Mandarin is the second. I don't remember the third. So everything that we hold as citrus today came from only 2 or 3 strands, of which pomelo is one original fruit and mandarin is the second. Everything else kind of came from mixing these together. I don't know if you knew this. Another fact that you didn't need to know, but here you go, trivia for today. So there's a trend in finding interesting citrus and focusing on that in creating new freshies, new citrusy, new whatever. Another trend is a return to pretty. I haven't seen much of, cement and blood and sperm and other things that were interesting in the past. Of course, Cucinelli was there with his, he's somewhere else when it comes to conceptualization. Of course, Maison Anson is doing a little bit things off the beaten path. Fushuni is doing it, but they're very few, and they've always done it. So they're not in or out of trend per se. So I'm not going to mention them, but everybody else is kind of moving away from this tendency of trying to create something shocking. And there's a return to pretty. There's reinterpretation of old formulas, the way it happened with the Iris by Fath, and so on and so forth. Another trend that I noticed, and I'm not the only one who saw it, was I think Michelin even already talked about it, is sophisticated or like upper solely floors, not solely notes, but solely floors. Perfumeries who pick a flower and then they do a solely flower, but they elevated kind of a thing. You saw it at Muscat with Love Kills and Rose everywhere. Paris did it, and so on and so forth. So that's another trend. Cannabis is the new cool thing. Apparently, everybody had cannabis, and I think Boyce had a whole booth done cannabis. Sure. And Riviera. Everything's about the Riviera stuff and yachting and boating and stuff. Like all of us are born on a freaking boat. going to the beach, back from the beach, stepping on your private boat, off your private boat, on your private beach, thinking about the beach, sitting on the sand, drying from the water at your private beach, and so on and so forth. These are these are the trends at Essence that my brain and my eye and my nose picked up. If they help you in any way, that's good. If they don't, I'm sorry. Let's move on. This is probably an explanation of why I am slightly comforted and relieved when I'm presenting something that nobody's talked about before that hasn't been launched this year or last year. There's some sort of association with, oh, 2 years ago, they were still making interesting things. I know it's completely unfair, but I don't know why. I associate 2017, for example, with the year of very good launches, and many of them. Anyway, don't hold it against me. The fragrance for today comes from a house that for some reason doesn't get much exposure or love. Whoa, look who's here. Hi, Peter. I don't know if you've ever, if any of you has seen our latest production, but Peter and I went off the railing. Well, mostly me, because he executed his bit perfectly, and we recorded a song. Oh my God, I'm laughing. So I was telling everybody about the patterns and the trends I've noticed at Essence, and how, for that reason, I am now more comforted and more relieved by presenting something that's been launched pre-2018 somehow. Hi, Alex. Hi, Andrea. And who else is new? Narcisa and Dana Zarescu. Yes. All right. So the brand that I want to talk about today, I don't know very much about, and I know more than others, but I can't really dig very deep because I'm not done reading the Italian materials I was able to find on them. I had heard, you think it has something to do with temperature rise? That's an interesting theory. I don't know. Maybe. But then why would they be so luxurious and so private yachting stuff? Not all of them are that rich, you know what I mean? And I think we're past the phase of aspirational marketing, where we know better, particularly niche people know better than going into, oh, I'm going to wear a boating perfume, so I'm going to smell like a rich movo. I don't know. You have to maybe. So the brand I'm going to talk about today, I discovered in Milan, believe it or not. I knew vaguely of them. I was aware of their presence, but I had never tested their line, and I did not see it at Essence. I saw it at Zor Parfumerie because everybody was talking about Zor, or Zor. It's spelled Z-H-O-R. I heard all the big guys talking about it, and a lot of them were planning to visit and interview and probably beg for free merchandise or whatever they did. But when I got there, the guy was not happy to see yet another press person, yet another blogger, vlogger, whatever. So I didn't tell him I did this until after I had paid. So, but I visited because everybody was recommending it. In all honesty, the brands that I found there were not necessarily brands that I naturally would put together. In my head, they don't mix because you had Crown Perfumery, and then you had Mentito Rosa. You had Francesca Dell'Oro, and then you had Morph. In my head, when it comes to building a portfolio, these don't necessarily belong in the same kind of world. But hey, who am I to judge business? I don't know anything about business and what sells, what doesn't sell. What I do want to say is that it was a pretty store. The guy there was the manager, and the sales person, who was a lady, were very, very on point. They knew their stuff. They knew their fragrances. They were very quick to answer questions, to recommend. They were very proactive, as opposed to some dude in some store where you go to try something, and when he sprays, he looks somewhere else. He goes like this. Needless to say, those are not stores I go back to. Zor, I liked. They were kind of cute. They put petals of roses in front of their store. Of course, they were wilted by the time we got there, because we got there, you know, after the show was over, after the whole traffic had died, you know, and like I said, they were very, very not into talking to bloggers or vloggers. Hey, who am I to judge? I now know why, but then it was interesting to kind of navigate waters without knowing the politics very intimately, let's call it. Anyway, this fragrance, that was a very long introduction. I apologize, but you're not here for expedited service, I hope. It is called Re Profumo. Re means king, Profumo means perfume. Re Profumo, Venezia. The line was started in 2014. 2014. The only name, I know it's an intertrade apparently, or maybe it is now. I have no idea if it started as such. The only name that I managed to find associated to this, yes, it's a weapon. It's a white weapon. Is Fulvio Fronzoni. As far as I know, Fulvio Fronzoni. It's hard to say. It's a mouth filler. Fulvio Fronzoni. Apologies if I'm making fun of this name. I'm actually not. It's just hard to say and transition to from English. As far as I know, this gentleman is a writer as much as he is a creative director, I'm guessing, for this line of fragrances. Fulvio is making fragrances. And I know he wrote a book called Re Profumo. I know there are chapters, and I know there are musical / video productions dedicated to 5 of the perfumes in the line. This is one of those 5. So he has a very interesting approach that is almost synesthetic, in that he's trying to mix all the senses in a story that makes sense, pun intended, to anybody who's experiencing them in any form, either smell or visual or sound. I'm guessing you can't drink them, but hey. Demon from Mamaya. And let's see, who else is there? Abdelu Ahid Faiz. Welcome. Yes. So you can find them on narrativa.ilprato.com/autori. Something like that. I will write everything down as soon as I'm done. Boom. Okay, let's talk about the line. The line currently has 13 fragrances as far as I know. I only tested about 9 because that's what they had on the shelf right there. Of the 9, this is not the one that I would pick as the best executed. However, I kept coming back to it. It's slightly addictive and odd. Made me spend the money. Speaking of the money, I think it's very accessible. I looked it up right before we went live. In America, they're 200 and something. No, please don't. But in Europe, in a store, so whatever retail up, whatever those are called, taxes, and everything, and VATs, and with all of that, it came to about 130 euros, which I think is a common sense price for something, considering that nowadays we're starting to think 200 and plus for a bottle of fragrant water is acceptable. It's not acceptable considering the production costs. No, it's not. So 130 is actually for niche, for this type of quality, because I do believe the ingredients are of good quality, not the best, but of very good quality compared to everything else that comes out. And for $130, this is perfect. So I want to talk about it again, not because I think is the best in the line. I will tell you which one I thought was the best in the line, but because it's odd and because I want to put it on your radar. And because I think it's a very good value for the price. Malka Labov from San Jose. Welcome. So, common sense, all for it, okay? You can be as prissy and as whatever you want to be. Have something to bring to the table. You can't go, I'm looking for somebody to love me the way I am. Be something that's lovable. Fine, I agree with you. You can be an asshole, but bring something. Are you a good cook? Are you rich? Are you smart? Are you funny? Are you a good lover? Are you something? Something. Bring something to the table in order to say, this compensates for the other things that I don't have. That's my opinion. There's no such thing as loving me for who I am if you're not something, anything that's lovable. Correct? I don't know how I went onto that diatribe, but I guess I'm not out of my sickness. And when I'm sick, I talk a lot. And my thread of thought goes different places. Anyway, this is not the best of the line, but it is, I think, the most interesting because it combines, I don't know what pita is. I want to hear this. This is getting interesting. This is going to be like a therapy session, a group therapy session. Love it. Sogno d'amore. Yes, that I wouldn't put as the best, but it's very good. I love Meraviglia. I think it's very interesting. Spicy incense. Very well done. There's another one called excited, exalted, something with X. That was good. And there was another one that was very, very, very green, bitter green, poison green that I thought was very well composed. It is, I would say this is more symmetrical than Nasomatto because Nasomatto is always a little bit off. For example, this one, as you can see, it's the bottle is completely cylindrical, square base, and the top is not, so it's slightly off. This one is the same girth everywhere. I like the bottle. I think Italians, just like the Spaniards, make pretty architectural bottles when they go classical. I believe this and Santa Eulalia have this. Yeah, it's similar with the ivy, poison ivy from Exaltatum. The bottle is simple, it's good quality, but it leaks. I know pita's kind of a bread, but I don't think that's what Ashfaq is talking about. I want to hear this. It's a brick. It's heavy. It's good. Good everything. However, it leaks. This is not how much I used of it. Although I did use a lot of it since I got back from Milan. I think I wanted to separate myself from the things that I did have samples from because I wanted to create a mental space for this is mine. That was a gift. So I had to keep them separate. It leaks. It leaks. It's driving me nuts. And I broke the cap. Of course, I have thunder hands, thunder thighs, thunder, like I'm a tank of a woman, okay? And I break stuff all the time, including myself. My friends say that I don't know where my body ends. Like there's no limitation between me and the world kind of a thing. So I get hurt a lot. Yeah. So the cap theoretically is supposed to look like this. It's very heavy. It's very well done. There's a griffin probably or whatever this creature is. The gold is good quality kind of a thing. It's not cheap. Nothing is cheap about it. But, of course, this is what happens. In the box, which is also luxurious and nice and common sensed and good taste, nothing too gaudy about it. You get kind of like a travel cap that kind of looks like this without, of course, stuff, so that it doesn't weigh as much when you travel. Now, it leaks. It sprays like Windex. It's bad. Okay? Bad. The bottle, the rest of the bottle looks like this. Re Profumo. Venezia is the brand. This is a coat of arms that kind of suggests the Venetian city coat of arms. And the name of the fragrance, you see it here, is ALEXANDROS. All right. I don't know why a Venetian brand would pick Greek names for their fragrances. I don't know what that means then. My husband knows better than to mess with my stuff. Again, I don't know why Venetian a Venetian concept would pick Alexandros as a name. In fact, I do believe that they have a weird mix between Latin tendencies and naming their fragrances and Greek inspiration. Let's say that back in the day, the Greek Empire and the Roman Empire did overlap at some point. But anyway, I don't think it's a clear intent. In any case, it leaks. And if it doesn't leak like this, which I think it does, actually, it leaks when it sprays. It's one of those, like, if you want to decant this, forget about it. You better, like, decrimp it. And, ooh, this even moves. Just so you know. Maybe I got the one bottle that's crappy, but just so you know. Now, let's talk about it. The reason for which I picked it, like I said, is not because I think this is the best executed in the line. Unlike the one that I talked about last week, which is perfectly blended. There's nothing, no edge. There's no eve to the fragrance. Nothing to pick in, no crack that you can stick your finger in and say, from here to there, it's civet, from here to there it's benzoin, and so on and so forth. There's nothing. Everything is like a watercolor. It goes very, very smoothly from something from one ingredient to the next. In this one, things are very well delineated and they don't make sense on paper put together. However, it's slightly addictive. The mix that makes it odd, that made me go back to it and pick this over others that were, not necessarily better formulas. They're all quite classic. It feels like it does feel formulaic a bit. Oh, I'm spraying it around the house. I love it. And it doesn't last as long as all those phthalate filled monsters of recent or close to recent niches. So for some reason, there's a very comfortable, naturalistic feel to this. That's why I'm saying my nose picks up ingredients that I think are natural, not in the same concentration or a proportion, better said, than in naturalistic, as in naturalistic perfumery. I can't speak today, but it gives me the feeling of job well done, formula, slightly classical, but non-formulaic in this. That's why I picked this over the other ones. It's just surprising. It's a surprising mix. And yeah, exactly. And it behaves the way it's supposed to somehow. It's very... I don't know. It feels good. It gives you a good feeling. So, Alexandros is an interesting combination between jasmine, some sort of smoky incense, resiny, but not very balsamic, and ylang. Now, I would never, not that I would never, but I wouldn't look at these three combined, because I would think it's going to take it into sticky, weird, andolic, kind of sweaty territory that I personally wouldn't think is a good combo. And I would definitely not call it Alexandros. Maybe they're thinking about Alexander the Great, who was, by 33, he was ruling the world, who had a male lover, who traveled on horseback, who was, different and ahead of his time, probably, than many others. I don't know. But it's odd. It's odd. Something sticks out. You don't know exactly what it is. It's slightly uncomfortable when you put it on. You're like, but then it's addictive. So let me walk you through what's in it, the way my nose picks it up. Like I said, there's ylang. It's not very fleshy. It's not very tropical. It's more towards ripe banana, kind of, a little bit neutral, a little bit creamy, a little bit floral, but you can tell it's ylang. It's a very clean, very clear ylang. It almost smells like essential oils, the ones that you buy to put in a vaporizer. If they're organic, if they're natural, if it's a good source. This is kind of like how ylang goes. From the bottle, there's something that smells like burnt plastic. I'm not sure if it's because whatever's in it is eating through. Oh, okay. Represents the olfactory interpretation of Alexander the Great's lost love. Right. They do say that his lover died first, and then Alexander could not get over it, basically. So he died of love. That's one of the theories. Okay, there's a smell of burnt plastic. I'm guessing it's because this is melting from whatever alcohols they have in here. I said incense and I said jasmine. The jasmine is very, it smells natural. It smells like star jasmine, slightly green. It's very floral and it's a little bit creamy, but it's not very indolic. And you don't expect some sambac. Don't expect the almost acrid aspects of intense jasmine to come through, because they're not like that. And when I say incense, I literally say incense sticks that are kind of non-descriptive. If you were to put them in some sort of category, I would put them in, a little bit of enoki mixed with some sort of weird or mixed piney resin, so maybe some benzoin, a little bit of something sweet, maybe some sandalwood, when you sawdust. That's what's in my head, like pressed together with some sort of clay. That's when I say incense stick. That's what I mean. Other than that, there's a little bit of leather, of the boots kind. Imagine a pair of new boots. So it's not motor leather, it's not suede. I don't know what it's made of. It's not very smoky. The animalic aspects don't come through very, very predominantly, and there's no powderiness to this. In fact, I think they listed as a balsamic. It's not really balsamic, and it's not ambery, and it's not really spicy. And it doesn't have, like I said, you don't feel any powdery, irisy, violety notes to this leather. You don't feel any animalic, furry, smoky, castor oil-y things to this. There's no birch per se. It's whatever this accord is, wherever they bought it from or whatever they constructed it from, is very hinted rather than present. There's a vanilla that's very grown up, I believe. It makes me think of, I'm going to hold it here just in case. It makes me think of vanilla absolute, even though I doubt there's any vanilla absolute in this. But it does have that kind of distilled, herby, chocolatey, burnt coffee-ish um, twist to the vanilla accord. I think it's blended with different kinds of things. But what I can say is that the vanilla is very mature. It's very non-gourmandy. I met it in Copala, for example, from Chez Nous. I felt it a little bit in the vanilla from Le Labo. There's a little bit in the vanilla from Mona di Orio, which is more smoky than this is, but it's a different kind of vanilla interpretation that makes me think of non-gourmand, more mature, more grown-up vanilla. If you want more serious vanilla. Josiah Sanchez from Washington, welcome. And yes, there's some woody notes, nondescript. Maybe there's some cedar there, a little bit of cashmeron, if I were to guess. Now, I think these are the things that they do talk about. I do remember talking about these particular ingredients in the store. Apart from all of those, my nose picks up in the order in which they appear. And this is an odd contraption because it's not necessarily pyramid style and it's not entirely circular. There are some fragrances that go circular. They evolve and then they start all over again, like some of the initial releases from Comme des Garçons used to do that. This is somewhere in between. And again, it doesn't have a monster performance, so you kind of have to catch it. That's why maybe I keep respraying it because I want to understand it. I know it's off. So I want to kind of catch all the facets enough to be able to talk about it. In order in which they appear, you can also smell lavender, very clear lavender mixed with something very anisic. So it's either, I would say, licorice or anise. These come straight in the beginning. It's a very absinthe, but cool-ish kind of opening. And heady, very heady. Now, some of you, like I said, are making your own fragrances, and maybe you can explain how some of these accords could be obtained, or some of these notes, impressions rather, can be obtained from the ingredients that I talked about in the beginning. I don't know enough to say, well, these two together can also give you that. So if you want to participate, feel free to fill in. But anise and lavender are very prominent. Of these two, both of them stay throughout the growth and development of the fragrance. But the lavender gets warmer and warmer, which is rather odd and kind of nice. And the anise or licorice, maybe licorice, gets colder and colder, which is very interesting because licorice in general kind of sticks to whatever woods are in the base to my nose and kind of lingers there, makes them like chewable if you want, makes them a little bit more digestible, makes them more close to what you think something handable is rather than observable. But in this case, it gets colder. It's almost like it goes into crystallization, if it makes any sense at all. So these two kind of start together with the big blast of, hairspray, or maybe not hairspray, almost a, if you've ever distilled anything and you sat in the near vicinity of something, of the distillation apparatus machine, those vapors smell in a certain way. It's like fermentation vapors on steroids. I don't know if any of you know what I'm talking about. So it's kind of like etheric, like ether-ish type of manifestation, very intensely boozy, alcoholic, but not alcohol as in like you put on a wound, more like drinking alcohol somehow. Does this make any sense to you, please? Nobody's saying anything, which is usually not a good sign. Or is it? Anyway, let's keep going. I'm going to keep going. So this is the first blast, right? Lavender that gets warmer, and licorice that gets colder and crystalline in some odd way. The burnt plastic that I already mentioned, I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know if it's a manifestation of the fragrance going through this leaky sprayer that is probably melting on the inside. No idea. So I don't know if it's the juice or the mechanics. But the final effect is that it does scrape a trace of burnt plastic. Then later on, and I don't know if you can tell on the camera, probably not, it kind of applies slightly and stays slightly oily on the hand, which makes it cool. I'm like, okay, it's nice to be able to smell something you also see, kind of. I don't know. You tell me. I have not tried anethol. Has a coolness to it. It gets cooler and cooler. It's very interesting. I'm good at explaining things, but that doesn't mean I know them all in what they start as or what they're called. Sometimes I recognize something, but I don't know what it's called. So that's why it's important to have a chat box. For a short period of time, in the mid section, lemon pops, which is weird because lemon comes in the front usually, or stays throughout through some really harsh chemical replacement. No. This, about half an hour after spraying, maybe 45 minutes after spraying, a very clean and very natural lemon pops. Now it's gone. When I say lemon, I mean lemon, the pulp, the lemon with the white bitter parts, slightly bitter parts, and lemon with the peel, particularly, like the whole lemon, fresh, live, realistic lemon. It was a very interesting twist. I did not expect it. It made my nose burn a little bit, which means it's probably mixed with something like a clove-ish something. And then in the base, which is the weirdest part of this thing, I don't even know what to call it, thing, I feel a mix that is kind of slightly gross. And I'll tell you why. One is something like a wet flower. When I say wet flower, I usually go towards lotus flower, tulip. These are wet flowers to me. Wet. It's a vaguely floral smell, but it has it's like a spongy type of wet quality to it. So there's something floral in there that comes up late in its development, which is why I keep saying it's kind of circular. I'm guessing they're there from the beginning, but the other ingredients are so strong that maybe these don't come through until the other ones kind of temper down. I have no idea what the story is. I'm just telling you what my nose perceives. So the wet flowers come through. Then the banana is becoming clearer. I'm guessing that's from the ilang, but maybe not, because it's banana, ripe banana with a little bit of the green inside the banana peel. That kind of like a little bit starchy, slightly bodily something. That comes through a little bit. And I'm starting to smell what, to my brain, gets associated with the smell of spit. If you've ever been kids, I've done this, not that I've done this exercise, but I've mentioned this in Romanian quite a few times now. Maybe Romanian people are tired of hearing it. But when I smell elemi in a composition, which is a kind of, it's a resin, so it emanates from a tree that's been cut or hurt in some way or another. It's a resin, right? When I smell elemi, it's been steam distilled. That's how it's used in perfumery. If it's mixed with stuff to be made into perfume, to my nose, it smells like, and that's how I recognize it always. When you're a kid, maybe you're not weird kids, but I was a weird kid. Yes, you're right. You've said that before, and I tested it, and you are right. But the effect that I'm talking about, apart from the warm green aspects, warm herbal aspects, sage to me goes into warm herbs, crap, I don't remember the word in English. I'll process, I'll come back. Apart from the herbal, warm herbal, slightly lemony sometimes notes that elemi brings, and that are different from the lemony frankincense notes, for example, in applications. For me, elemi reads a little bit oily, which in combination with the banana doesn't really sound appealing, but it works in here. And smell-wise, strictly smell-wise, the way I recognize it is this. When I was a kid and we were doing dares on each other and trying to do all sorts of crappy, gross things, one of them was to lick our hands repeatedly, right? We would be playing. I don't remember why we were doing it, but we were doing it. We were a communist country. We didn't have too many toys, okay? Don't judge. So one of the things that we did was to lick our hand, let it dry, lick it again. So it was like tens of layers of spit throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, we're like chase each other with stinky spit hands, you know? It smells like dry spit. No matter how clean your mouth is, dry spit does not go well. This is what elemi sometimes, always, reminds me of. And sometimes it also has oily aspects when it comes to texture. And most of the times it also has warm herbal undertones to it as a resin. Wow, that was a long elemi description. But just so you know my reference system, if you want. I feel like we could get along no matter who you're talking to. You can get along with them as long as you make sure that you use the same words for the same things. Does that make sense? As long as you establish where sweet starts and where it ends, where vanilla starts, where it ends. And as long as you establish that you know you're talking about the same thing. Because otherwise, I may say blue is green plus yellow. Red and blue make violet. But if you've never seen violet before or red before, you don't know what that is. For you, it's rubber undertone with incense. Tulsi. Oh, yes. I think you are right. Oh, you're so right. It is Tulsi. No, I know Tulsi very well. It's like a special type of, almost like a basil, in the basil family. But it is very anisic. Yes. Yes. Yes, it is. It's very similar to Tulsi. Bravo. I did not wear places. I got goosebumps. Look at that. This is what happens. Yay. It is very Tulsi-y. So if you've smelled or drank Tulsi tea before, in fact, I think I have Tulsi plus lavender downstairs. I brings that with me sometimes. But yes, so if any of you have smelled, tasted, experienced Tulsi, the combination of things in this do go towards that a lot, actually. Love it. Thank you, Ananda. So these are the things that I smell in the order in which they appear on top of what they say this has in it. There's probably some patchouli in there because there's a KV quality to this. Oh, good to know. I didn't know. There's a slightly cave-ish, ditchy quality to this without being too earthy, too deep. It's not very medicinal, mentholated, patchouli-ish. I hate this. Look. What is this? Hello. I would guess there's a little bit, maybe it is tulsi, because I would say sweet marjoram. I keep going around it like this with all these things that kind of have tulsi in the center. So maybe it is tulsi. In any case, this is a resprayer. On me, this whole carnival of things, like I said, they're a little bit dissonant. They're not making any sense for what's launched today. They are slightly classical, but done Italian style. You know, Italians, they bother the crap out of me. I love Italian perfumers, my favorite. So just to put it out there, but they bother me because they take 3 ingredients, they toss it on a plate, they drizzle some EVOO and all that stuff on top, and it's the best salad you've ever had, or it's the best steak, or it's the best whatever you eat or you don't eat you've ever had, and you're like, I'm gonna make this at home. You go home, you buy all that crap. Costs a lot of money. You want to make it very authentic, and you want to serve a Tuscan dinner and stuff. And you know what? It's pathetic. It doesn't work because these guys, formulaic or not, pick something. They go Salt Bay. Oh, and they should put some salt. And I can't do Italian. I can speak Italian, but I can't do an Italian accent. Ma dai, quasi, un po' di sale, ma che vuoi? Blah, 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 blah. And then it's perfect. And you are sitting there like peeling your face because it's not working in your house the same way it works in them. Anyway, I'm drooling for some very, very odd reason right now. It's probably the jasmine or hedion's or whatever they put in here. But this is the most dissonant of their line, not the best composition, the most original, or the best executed fragrance in their line, but it is dissonant, and because it's dissonant, I ended up buying this instead of others. I decided it's worth plenty. The $130 I paid for it, and that's how I ended up with Re Profumo. Look at like I said, it did leak. This is not how much I used of it. It's kind of hard to use this much in 2 months when you have 500, 600, whatever bottles in your house. But I did spray it and respray it. It doesn't stay long. But it builds up nicely because whatever traces of smell you are left after 2-3 hours, if you add another puff to that, it builds up nicely. It becomes or it re-becomes itself without conflicting the leftover notes with whatever's on top when you respray. It's a nice. I think I just spat on myself. Sorry, guys. I don't know what's happening. Like I said, I'm at the end of a sickness, and this is what you get. It's a resprayer, so I have it very close to my desk, and I keep. It's slightly addictive. It's slightly too close. It's like smelling, I don't know, sperm. It's just. I'm not saying this smells like sperm. Maybe it's a bad, unfortunate commentary. But it's like smelling something that's so deeply intimate that you don't really want to get too close, kind of a thing. That ylang, that banana kind of takes it there. The oiliness and LME. It's just maybe there's some immortelle in here. I don't know. Something else that's making it slightly oily and slightly personal and slightly too intimate. Like dry spit again. Oh my God, I cannot believe this poor fragrance. I love it. I bought it. I'm talking about it. I want to put it on your radar. Keep an eye on the house. I don't know if they're gonna last for a long time. I hope they do. Because it's everything is well done. Everything is independent from each other. They have several instances and they're all different from each other, which is very interesting. It's hard to do that nowadays. It's probably more muted than what you would want from a fragrance. But you guys in Europe, if you see it in front of you, give it a nose. Come back, tell me what you think about it. And that's about it. I thought this is going to be very, very, very fast because I didn't think I have. The best of the line? Huh. The best as in like best executed, best. I think this has the best ingredients, best quality ingredients. That's why I have this feeling that it's not going to last for a long time. I don't think all of them will be continued to be produced for a long time. But I liked Meraviglia. I think I've already mentioned it. I thought it's a good. It's a spicy incense, but it's not spicy with spices. It's more like tobacco-y kind of a thing. Odd and slightly crunchy. For me, crunch comes from very few ingredients. But that's how I remembered it. So it's probably like, I remembered it as a spicy incense, but I remember it as crunchy, which means it has some ginger or something in it. So there you have it. I think Meraviglia is the one that stayed with me. And yeah, I think that's the best one, in my humble opinion. But I didn't buy that one. I bought this one because it just came. It's just, that's it. I bought it and I'm using it. So that is it, folks, for today. Long hour of talking about stuff. If you like this kind of content, this is where the marketing comes, because I forget to do it in the beginning like normal people who want to be influencers, which I don't want to be. But apparently that's what you're supposed to do for renewed success. Stick around. If you like this kind of facts about perfume and perfumery, stick around. Tell others, the whole shebang. Press the buttons or whatever. All that stuff. Stay in school. Let's say it together. Keep it kind, but keep it real. Or keep it real, but keep it kind. Whatever applies to you. I will see you next week with something really, really fun. We're going to go against the system next week. And that's it. I don't know. I keep thinking that there's more. No, there's not more. That's it. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. And stream. And oh, and if you smell it, come let me know. 1, 2, 3.